So I just want to start first, just kind of like with the introduction of just all the big names in hip hop that came out of the West to begin with. I mean, I'm gonna start with two of my favorites, at least one of my favorites. It's a big name, but not unless you know West Coast rap. And that's Spice One.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now,
Shout out Spice.
we're talking about the Rushmore, and I'm not going to advocate that Spice needs to be on the Rushmore, because I just don't think, there's just too much ahead of him. But as far as respect goes from other West Coast rappers, the Spice One gets it. And that is one thing that you have to take into account, man, when you are evaluating a rapper's impact is what his peers say about him. That's why I
Yeah,
love Spice One. And
yeah.
before you get going, let me tell everybody, this is a Mount Rushmore, but the way BA is structuring his thoughts on this, like this is not just the four best rappers or four best artists in on the West Coast, because
No,
that's not what Mount Rushmore
not this is
is.
about. Yeah, not what this is about.
Mount Rushmore are the four people who made the biggest impacts that after they came and went, things changed.
And I will say, we've talked about Mount Rushmores before, on air and off, and this thought process came from you sparked this right when we were having the debates about criteria and so on and so forth, and you was like the real Mount Rushmore isn't necessarily the four best presidents or that's on the current Mount Rushmore now, right? It was the impact that each one of them had in their individual lanes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of took that thought process, and you mentioned Spice One. I'm gonna throw out another. I guess we can kind of call them honorable mentions, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna throw out one that I don't think he's Mount Rushmore, but I think he definitely goes into the West Coast Hall of Fame, which is none other than DJ Quick. Uh, Quick is the name, man. As far as from the production standpoint, rap standpoint, there isn't a bigger name on the West Coast. You can't give me a top 10 West Coast without Quick in it. I can't see it happening. So shout out Quick for sure.
And the production, man, Quick was kind of like Premier on the West Coast to me. Like he always had a very specific sound. You knew a Quick beat when you heard it, like you know a Primo beat when you hear a Primo beat. But
Right.
everybody had to get one.
Oh
Every
yeah.
every time you did an album, everybody had to get a Quick beat. Let me get
Everybody
Quick
had to
on
hit him
this.
with a beat, man, quick, and it had a spring in it somewhere. It had a spring, and for those that y'all don't know, I don't mean a jump on the beat, right? I mean a legitimate. It's something about he had a unique sound, and it always sounded like a spring, like a boing, not really boing, but you know what I'm saying. Like it was a
Yeah.
spring sound. It's crazy.
All right. So when you started, I know we talked about this offline, so y'all excuse us for that. But I know you started with kind of an initial thought, and then you settled on what you thought it really should be, which I think
Yeah,
is healthy when you're going through this, because your initial thought, I mean, most of the time is probably not right. I've learned that, and through we've been doing this for almost a year now, and I've learned that every time we have a topic and we go top five or who goes here, the my first thought is I got this. I don't even need to look at this, and then I start looking at it, and I'm like, wait a minute, that list I had that I finished with didn't look anything like the list I had to begin with. So
yeah.
where did you think you wanted to start with the four most impactful artists in West Coast rap?
Well, conversationally, the easiest two thought processes is how do you separate NWA? Like how do you make the distinction who's in, who's out, right? Um you can't, or you shouldn't, or maybe you should. Like I don't know. Um but conversationally, what NWA did for the West Coast and quote unquote the genre of gangster rap as a whole is Mount Rushmore worthy, right? So the easiest thing was to go, okay, one of those spots got to go to all of NWA, right? The other thought process is, to be honest, it's too short, right? Again, another highly decorated, highly touted of artists who carried the West on his back a long time before we got a signature group like an NWA, like a signature before we got a Death Row or Dog Pound or any of that. It was too short, right? And so Short Dog is one that I if I did this list 5 times, 2 out of the 5 times, it's an easy place for me to put Short on there, right? It's just that easy. But once you get past those 2, and this is probably where I'm going to get murdered, right? Once you get past those 2, and I'm not going to even have a conversation because I'm sure it'll be something to have in the comments. Tupac is the question mark for me, or was, right? Pac was the question mark for me.
Actually, that was my question: is what do you do with him?
Because it kind of depends on which Tupac we're talking about. And to me, that's the only reason he may not make it on a Mount Rushmore, because as corny as it sounds, he either gets no spots or he gets 2, right? Pre-Death Row, post-Death Row, because he was two completely different artists, 2 completely different people. He was on 2 completely different paths, right? So if you go the impactual Tupac, in my opinion, right, that's Death Row and post, that's Death Row and beyond. But if you go the artist, and we're talking artistry, right, and you're giving him his reward for his artistry, then that's pre-Death Row. I can't remember who it was, but I was watching a clip, and someone else was talking about. Oh, it was Nelly. Nelly was doing an interview, and they were talking about All Eyes on Me being the best Tupac album ever, and Nelly put it very similar to the way I have, and kind of you too. But I know for you, All Eyes on Me is your favorite Tupac album, but Nelly put it like this, right? All Eyes on Me is Tupac's best album, period. He said, but it's not my favorite album.
No,
my favorite album is Me Against the World.
That's actually my favorite album too.
Yeah, so like Me Against the World was about artistry, and that's the thing, right? When we talk about the artist versus the impact. So that's how I kind of looked at Pac. He either got 2 spots or he had to get no spot.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was just wondering what you do with him too, because he's not really from either place, or I guess it's like Schrodinger's cat. He's either from Cali and New York, or he's not
Correct.
from either one.
And a lot of people that, like I said in the comments, who are going to say their piece. And again, I've never been one to shy away from discussion, healthy discussion, right? But the East Coast will claim Pac, and they have a up to me against the world kind of claim, in my opinion, right? Even though he did his time with Digital Underground and so on and so forth, a lot of things out of the Bay, when it came down to it, he was an East Coast guy that lived a West Coast life to the fullest. That's really the only way I could say it.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. He had a West Coast lifestyle when he moved over there, but he did not have a West Coast sound. He still, even on Dre beats, he still didn't have a West Coast sound. I mean,
No,
his flow was not a West Coast flow.
he sounded a lot like he sounded a lot like a Craig G or a Master Ace to me. Like he had a lot of heavy East Coast influences in his delivery. It's just his vernacular was West Coast, if that makes sense. Right? He had a West Coast vernacular, but he had an East Coast delivery. So for that, I'm like, you can't really make the West Coast Route Rushmore if you don't make you know what I'm saying? Like
I think it's at least, at the very least, fair to say that if I'm not sure where to put you, then I can't put you on a Rushmore.
I mean, I couldn't have said anything better than that. That's about right.
Yeah, like maybe if we're doing a national, just an American rap Mount Rushmore, maybe there's an argument for Pac, but and I also don't think. I think Pac was one of those artists who transcended where he was from anyway. Like, I was from South Carolina, and I love Pac just as much as any other fan could have. And I don't. His music was not the kind of, there's certain artists that you only appreciate in those places. They don't get out. Now, like Mobb Deep is another example of somebody who I felt like didn't get appreciated outside of New York because as much as they probably should have, because their sound was so New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so let's start with your first one, man. When you wanted to go with your real Final Four. Give me your first one.
The easiest choice is, to me, the person who has had the largest impact on the West Coast. He was responsible for a lot of things that shook, not just on this Mount Rushmore, but I believe this man goes down in Hip Hop Hall of Fame as top 3 in his field all time, and that's none other than the doctor himself, Dr. Dre. When it's all said and done, who hasn't he worked with? Who hasn't he produced for? Straight Outta Compton is a hit, right? In for Life, right? Ninjas for Life, hit. Aftermath, then he goes to Aftermath. The Chronic, we don't even need to talk about The Chronic. The Chronic was what it was. Dog Food, what it was. All Eyes on Me, what it was, right? The
NWA soundtrack,
right? To the Compton, the Compton joint, the 2001. I mean, and even the joint that he just did now with Snoop that just came out, earlier this year. What hasn't he done, man? Shout out to Beats by Dre. Right? What hasn't what hasn't Dre done, and what magic has it not produced? So for me, arguably, he was the easiest he was the easiest to put on there. Like, Dre must go on there.
If you were arguably the greatest producer in hip hop, top 3. I don't hear anybody that puts him out of the top 5 for sure. Then yeah, man. I mean, you helped start gangster rap. You helped start a subgenre of rap with your production. You moved over to Death Row and helped it explode. Then when you left Death Row, you started your own. Now, you struggled a little bit because Aftermath Presents, most of us would like to forget that compilation, but luckily it was compilation, so we can easily forget compilation.
We don't have to talk about it.
We don't count compilations. But you did the Chronic. It's kind of like when you look at a catalog, fine, it took you 10 to 12 years between projects, but you did the Chronic 2001, and then you did the NWA soundtrack. And That's three classics in addition to doing two Snoop albums, the Dog Food album, all of the NWA albums with and without Cube. I,
Easy.
yeah, I mean, there's just too much. So,
And
all right.
the other thing people forget about Dre, and I feel like they shouldn't, not just the work he did on Easy E, Easy Does It, but he found the DOC.
He found the DOC. He found Eminem. Well, he
Eminem,
didn't find him, but he had the.
Eminem, 50 Cent. Like the game, like these are things that he touched and they were magic.
Well, here's something that you have to give him credit for too. Like I'll use the Eminem example. Like he went and found Eminem, and then he let Eminem do his thing. It wasn't to where, he was trying to. It wasn't to where he was trying to make him do something else or turn him into something. It was like he let Eminem just do his thing. He let Eminem go get 50 Cent. Eminem was like, hey, I like this 50 Cent guy. I want to bring him on. He let him do that. Like he just, it's what you expect somebody to do is like, hey, come over here and do you. And I think that's a sign of somebody as a producer, as an executive who really knows what they're doing. Like I contracted you for you. So I'm not gonna make you do what I want you to do. You come over here and you do your thing, and I got you back. All right, so that one was an easy one. They're only gonna get harder from here, I assume. So
Yeah, but in the same thought process, right? In the same thought process, Ice Cube has to be next. Ice Cube has to go on the West Coast Mount Rushmore because at its core, who is more West Coast than Cube? Who has held it down longer? Unwavering. Let's talk about it. Friday is a cult classic, right? Set in California, right? He started a group called the West Side Connection with two other California artists. I mean, Cube is everything that the West Coast, I won't say was, because I will never disrespect him in that form or fashion, because he still walks the earth. In my opinion, Cube is everything that West Coast should be from somebody who got it out of nothing. If you are a young kid and you are an artist who you want your art to evolve beyond pen and pad, and Ice Cube isn't the blueprint that you're looking for, you're looking in the wrong place. I know there are other rappers who become moguls, so on and so forth, but if Ice Cube is not that mirror image, then you're looking in the wrong spot, period.
I feel like Ice Cube has the kind of career, the kind of personality, and the kind of mindset that forced people to respect the West Coast. Like, for several reasons. I mean, number one, the look that you guys are seeing on the screen right now. I just mean
he is famous for a look.
The whole aesthetic.
For a look.
Yeah, the whole aesthetic. Yeah. Like he's got kind of like The Rock does. Like he's famous for that. The whole aesthetic. So that whole gangster aesthetic from the West Coast. So he helped cultivate that. He helped make that a national thing. His attitude is very much I don't take much off of anybody. You know, he's not disrespectful, but you respect him or you have problems. So he has the Cali attitude. His music is very Cali. His music represents Cali. His everything in it is Cali set. whether he's naming places or anything like that. Cali set. Now, outside of using New York production for that first album that we talked about for reasons that he couldn't really avoid at the time.
Right. Shout out Chuck D.
Right. Outside of that, Cube has done this for 35 years.
And done it one way.
The same way.
West Side.
And he brought out, the West, like you said, West Side Connection, man, him and Dub C and why am I blanking on Mac 10, Mac 10.
Yeah.
Like they had albums that just now I was out west when those albums came out, and I could feel the impact of West Side Connection when it came out, and West Side Connection was banging on the West Coast. When you were in the club and you heard ooh ooh,
oh my God, ooh ooh, ooh ooh,
when you heard that in the club, who banging?
What?
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right.
There was not a more West Coast saying than who banging.
Who
you know
banging?
What I'm saying?
Hey, homie. All right, so you stuck with two members of NWA, or at least the original NWA so far. We have chiseled Dr. Dre's giant head on there. And man, I would love for Ice Cube to be on a Mount Rushmore, chiseled in stone forever with that look.
With that look?
Yes.
I mean, it's only that's the only way you capture him. It has to be that way.
It has to. It definitely has to. All right, so
and people don't understand. This is the smile pose.
Yeah, he's not upset.
This ain't even this is not even. This is the everyday photo. This is the smile pose.
I saw him on Conan, on Late Night with Conan once, and Conan was asking him. He was telling him, he was like, "You always have this mean look, man." He was like, and he actually smiled when Conan said that. He was like, "I know." He said, "People say that all the time." He's like, "I ain't mad." And Conan was like, "Well, what would your face be like if you won the lottery?" And he made that face.
He made that face right there. Yeah, classic.
All right, so you stuck with NWA. Dre is chiseled in. Ice Cube is now chiseled in with the classic mean mug. Who is your third West Coast rap Mount Rushmore inductee?
Well, you know what's funny? Because not putting Pac on this list actually made this one easier, because it makes his explanation more solidified to me. I look at it this way. If there is a product, well, whatever it is, if Dre's the product, okay? Ice Cube was what happened when the product got away from California, right? Mm-hmm. This next person is the global brand of the product, right? And literally over the last 10 years, who has been more globally recognized than Snoop D-O-double-G? Right? Like it, in the words of my man Ric Flair, shout out Ric Flair, right? Like it or you don't, but learn to live with it, because it's the best thing going on today.
Hey, it's like me and Camo say, man, the truth is still true whether you believe it or not.
Right. I mean, and you can argue any semantics that you want. He ain't the best lyricist. He hadn't had a bunch of hit songs in some years. Whatever you want to say, right? Turn on the TV though and tell me, get through an hour worth of regular scheduled programming with commercials and tell me you hadn't seen Snoop on something. Snoop was selling Corona. You and I talked on this episode about the Olympics, right? Snoop is at equestrian. He's at water polo. Like, this dude got to walk out with the Olympic squad with them dock shorts on and them little bitty legs. But Snoop out there, right? And Snoop's been everywhere. He's had TV shows, movies, He's been everywhere because people who look like Snoop shouldn't sell products, but they do. He does, right? People who look like
Bang,
Snoop
bang,
came from
bang,
what Snoop
bang,
came
bang,
from.
bang.
For every hater that I hear about Snoop, there's three people who will take the blow of the hatred, and then the next two will show you 27 things that he did better than somebody else. Right? So, without a doubt, Snoop has to be on the Mount Rushmore of the West Coast, period.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I mean, I haven't argued with you yet on any of these, and I'm definitely not going to argue with you on this one. And because this is where we have to go back to explaining the Mount Rushmore to all the people who are going to be huffy and puffy about this one, it's not just about one thing. It's not just about who's the best rapper. There is absolutely zero. And look, I know Snoop has had his issues with the public lately.
Yeah.
And you can say whatever you want to say about that. That's not what I'm talking about. But
Right.
that also makes a point in you have to be pretty big to even pull something like that for anybody to even care. Because like you mentioned, there were two other rappers that also got in on the Trump thing that a lot of people got mad about him, and nobody cared about them. I didn't hear anybody say that they had a problem with Soulja Boy, or was it Nelly?
No, was it Nelly? Yeah, and Nelly. Yeah.
And
Because
like,
Nelly let out that stupid statement about what if I respect the office?
yeah, like,
That's-
yeah, like nobody had. And they were like, man, everybody's mad at me, and me and you were like, who's mad at y'all? So I mean, so that's what it was. But Snoop, like when he got paid to go to the Olympics, and they knew Snoop was gonna be doing his Snoop thing. You know, he was gonna be elevated. Every time he went out in public, he was gonna be mentally elevated through chemical transactions.
Absolutely.
And they didn't care. They were like, Snoop, go get people to watch the Olympics. And people did.
And did. They knew what they were doing because Snoop brings viewership.
I was actually on X back then, and I remember all of the tweets that were coming through. Look at Snoop, man. Look at Snoop in this equestrian outfit. Like, he did not care. So now that is a global brand. So while I wouldn't rank him at the very top of lyricist or best rappers on the West Coast, there are other areas where Snoop Dogg just blew people away. Like, there's nobody on the West Coast, the East Coast, the South Coast, the North Coast, Canada, Uruguay, Madagascar, who can do what he did with the marketing.
Not even close. And I'm not going to get too crazy with this statement because, you know, we're not a political show by any means, but I need y'all to understand that when the Olympics came, America, the face of America was Flavor Flav and Snoop Dogg. Let's keep it that way. I'm just saying. Snoop was on TV more than anybody, but the next biggest thing was Flavor Flav and all that he did for female sports at the Olympics, right? His support of female sports, right? Impact doesn't go bigger than global, since right now we don't know if aliens is rocking hip hop on Mars. So until then, global is as big as you can get. Dr. Dre, global. Snoop Dogg, global. Ice Cube, global. Not saying some of those other people weren't global, just saying though.
Yeah, like there's a difference. I mean, being global is one thing. Being what he was is something different. I mean, nobody's done it. Nobody's name is that big. All right, so we got 3. Dre, Ice Cube, Snoop. I don't think there's too many that would have shocked anybody. Is number 4 a shocker? What you got for me, BA?
Number 4 is crazy because number 4 might be the most West Coast answer there is to who should be on the West Coast Mount Rushmore. Well, this person may not be in the conversation for album sales, award wins, lyrical accreditations. But I will say this: what bigger impact is there in a free flowing genre of music than to create not just your own slang, but your own language? Right? Be in your own lane. And this one I know will be near and dear to you because he rocks that same jersey that you like to cheer for on NFL Sunday. And that is none other than E40 Fonzarelli, 40 Water himself, Mr. E40. Earl, right? Hey man, 40 Water, it gets no bigger than the West Coast, right? Because again, unlike the others, I believe, 40 may be the only one on Mount Rushmore that is the most deserving for a West Coast Mount Rushmore for no other reason than the statement dominating your lane. The industry said you can't play here, right? And when I say that, it's what you do is it's not marketable. It won't be sustainable. This language, this off cadence rapping, like none of this will be sustainable. Newsflash: almost 30 years of a career.
Yeah, he's got 20 some odd albums.
And at the end of the day, he did each and every one of them the way he did them, right? He created a language, then gave you a dictionary of that language so you could understand words like Saha, Elroy's. You know what I'm saying? Right now, for those of you who don't know what Elroy is, he's rocking a pair of them Elroys right now, right? In this photo. I always go back to, I think one of the greatest things that BET did in their Cypher series was the West Coast Cypher, right? Because you had Snoop, you had 40, you had Exhibit, you had Quick, you had Kendrick, you had YG, and had he not been locked away you would have also had rest in peace. You would have had Nips, right? You had Corrupt, but you had some guys, and they were doing what true West Coast artists do. Somebody bangs on the table to give you a beat. You sitting around playing dominoes, and you let it happen, right? Unlike around trash cans or whatever, which is a very East Coast thing to do a cypher, block corner, which is a very East Coast thing to do a cypher. West Coast dudes did ciphers at the park over a domino game, right? Just somebody started, hey man, give me a beat. Hey, what's that? And then you just went in. So don't argue with me. Argue with your mama. E40 deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore. He was last, but definitely not least, because he had the most West Coast reason to be there. Plain simple.
And it's kind of, I like that you put him last, because something that I want to say, to people who might not know Cali, like I do have relatives in Cali, friends in Cali, that kind of thing. So there are two Calis. Everybody that BA put on his list on the first three, Dre, Cube, and Snoop, they were from Southern Cali. Yeah, they from LA, Long Beach, Compton, that whole area there. This man comes from the Bay. E40 comes from Oakland, San Francisco. He is a huge 49ers fan. He gets to walk on the sidelines at the games, not like in special areas, like he's standing next to the players at the 49ers games. But I'm with you, man. Like once you heard him, you get to hear how prolific he is, and you don't get to be whack and put out 22 albums.
Absolutely not.
You don't get to be whack and do that. You are making money for someone somewhere, and that's why you get to keep doing what you're doing. And I agree with you, man, because from the people that I know, that I talk to in California, he is just as big in Northern California as any of the other three people you just named are in Southern California.
Correct. And the difference is, I mean, Drake can go anywhere Drake wants to go, right?
Right.
Cube can go anywhere Cube wants to go. Snoop can go anywhere Snoop wants to go, right? But you see Cube at the Forum, he on the floor, true, right? But yeah, he at the Forum. But being on the floor is a perk that financially you can gain, because anybody with that financial status can get them floor seats, right? So here's why I bring that up. You can get a box, you can get a floor seat. That's money. That's big money talk. A sideline pass ain't got nothing to do with money.
That is credibility.
Right? A sideline pass is all about cred. And if you've never had a sideline pass, if you've never been to a professional game, college is a little different, but if you've never been to a professional game, there is tunnel access, there is media access, then there's VIP access. Now here's the difference. Tunnel sounds just what it is. You don't get to come past 2 steps. It's a little tape line. You get to come past 2 steps outside the tunnel, but you get to be in the tunnel. Players come in, players come out, whatever. Media access, you come up to the edge of the field, and you got a little surrounding areas around the field for your camera people, whatever. If you're doing interviews, then they bring you on and bring you off. VIP access is to the 20 on both ends. I believe we both seen footage of E40 on the field intermingling with 49ers players.
Yeah, I've seen him
during the game.
I've seen him standing next to coaches.
Right, during the game. Okay?
All right, so let me give you a final look at what you got, man.
Let's see. There it is. There it is. Like I said, man, I ain't scared.
I got that picture. I like how Dre looks like he just got out of church.
You know what I'm saying? I ain't scared. Don't argue with me. Argue with your mama. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, y'all can argue if you want to, man, but those are four blockbusters right there. I mean, I'm sure there'll be other people you can think of, but I'm interested in hearing the argument for it, for whatever.
I mean, and
why one of these comes off. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and put the disclaimer out there. We talked about Pop, right? We talked about Too Short. Okay? Let me put the other disclaimer out there. Easy E.
Bang, 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 bang.
If somebody in the comments says Easy should have been on here, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to ask you 2 questions. What criteria puts him on, and then who does he knock off? Like, those are my only 2 questions. Because Eazy-E, Tupac, and Too Short are the easiest 3 to argue that they deserve one of these spots. The problem is, whose?
Fair enough. All right, that does it. That is the Grown Man Bars West Coast Mount Rushmore, the West Side. And I like that. Look, man, the argument to take one of these off, like, you can give me another name that I would be, like you say, that I'd go, okay, but tell me why I got to take him off. I just like him better, not the emotional argument. Tell me why, tell me who had bigger impacts from California on California than these 4 guys. And I mean, that is a legitimate question. If you got somebody that can surprise me. I enjoy that. But now I enjoy this as well. It is time for me to give BA the old book it or cook it. And I got some good questions for you today.
Oh hell, here we go.
Yes, sir. BA, book it or cook it. Most diss tracks are trash.
Book it. I don't even got to think about it. Book it, right? And here's why: 90% of them are emotional, right? And most people, man or woman, right? Most people don't do anything instinctual well when it's 100% emotion, right? So in your head, all these bars sound great because you're trying to get it all out. A diss record ain't nothing but you trying to win an argument with your side, right? And if you are way too emotional about it, it don't come out well. It just doesn't. That's why I feel like a lot of rappers, do subliminal shots, right? Make you comb through the bar to try to find the diss, right? Let you debate if it really is a diss or if it ain't a diss, so they can set up how to deal with it either way, right? Or two, the ones who they preemptively set up their response to a beef, right? I'm gonna say this, and if there's smoke, I already wrote this because I'm not emotional about it, right? Because I don't really know what you're going to say. I'm just ready to say something back to you. So it's already written. It's already ready, right? I may change the beat. I may drop another, another punch or two in there just to, make it more relevant or whatever. But when you come right back at the response, it's not great. And I'll give you two examples, right? And they both have to deal with the same person that you love to death, right? Which is none other than my man Drizzy Drake, right? Here's why I say this. The Drake Meek Mills beef was a one-sided victory for Drake because back to back was genius. Like it was genius, right? And it was genius because it was preemptive. He was prepared, and he wasn't emotional about it, right? And he had time to throw in all the good jabs, all the good punches, and everything. And he got all the insider information from a label mate, right? And it was factual information because of where it came from, but it wasn't emotional, right? It was calculated. Now, Drake against Kendrick was a one-sided loss for Drake because it was all emotional. The response, the rebuttal, it was all emotional, and it didn't hit, right? It didn't hit like it should. And so that's what I mean by it. Yeah, I definitely book it. Most diss tracks are trash, which is why most people don't actually hear them. They get leaked.
Right. All right. Book it or cook it. Loaded Lux needs to come out more to still be considered the battle rap GOAT.
Cook it. Cook it. Right? I'm going to say this. It's going to hurt some feelings. But I'm going to leave this in two parts. There are two battle rappers who literally only have to battle when they want to because they can. And Loaded Lux is one of two, right? Murder Mook and Loaded Lux don't have to take a battle except every 2 years if they feel like it, right? Because that's what happens when you're in the GOAT conversation for a battle rapper. When you are the top tier of the God tier rappers, you don't have an agenda. You are a notch on the bedpost for rappers below you. So, yeah, Loaded Lux is, in my opinion, the GOAT. Period.
All right.
Of battle rap.
Book it or cook it. Kanye West isn't looking for attention. He actually needs help. Of the professional kind.
Yeah. Book it. Look, I think a lot of things Kanye does is calculated. I think he was very good at generating buzz for himself. But I think Kanye West has some underlying trauma that he didn't deal with in his life for different reasons. And I've said this over and over again. Maybe he never felt the need to deal with it until he lost his mom, and that pain triggered something that it opened something in him that he can't quite close out or fulfill, or full or empty or whatever you want to, however you want to put it. And because of that, now he is just, what he's doing now, it just seems like it's therapy. It's he's using social media instead of paying somebody $1,500 an hour to sit on the couch and talk through some things. I've said this repeatedly. There are two black men I feel like that they should stop putting microphones in front of them: Charleston White and Kanye West. Please stop recording them and submitting their feedback for the world, right? Now, it's not that I agree or disagree. I just mean they will speak up on anything, whether you ask them or not.
All right. Book it or cook it. Kendrick and Drake's beef will continue this year.
Cook it. Because I only believe one of them thinks it's a beef. I think the other one believes it was a shot at trying to bring out some competition that they were lacking in their career, to spark some things in their career. I believe Drake is the only one in that beef that believes it's a beef, right? Like, I'm originally from Oklahoma, so this is a joke that we say a lot, right? Bedlam is the battle of Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State in all sports, right? And true OU fans say this, and if anybody's listening to comments or whatever, back me up if I'm lying. When it comes to Bedlam, only OSU fans believe that it's that it's a rivalry, like that it's a thing, because outside of baseball and wrestling,
like every now and then you got to win a few before to make it a rivalry,
right? Like,
yeah, okay,
yeah, I don't know, but that's how I look at it.
All right, last one. We kind of touched on this one earlier, so it's kind of funny that this came up. Cali Tupac was a better rapper than New York Tupac.
Cook it. And the answer is simple. The answer is it's simple. The answer is Me Against the World. That's the answer. Whichever Tupac you think that was, that's how you should feel about this question, right? Because no matter how good of a project All Eyes on Me was, and it was good. The 7 Day Theory, it was phenomenal, right? No matter how good you think those projects were, neither one of them lyrically holds up to Me Against the World.
Yeah, Me Against the World to me felt like the most honest Tupac album that we got. Like Me Against the World was 100% wide open Tupac.
Yeah.
Like he just opened his mind up to make that album, and I feel like that was the most honest Tupac we got, because all the West Coast stuff, he was on the beef. He was on the Biggie beef thing. So he was consumed with emotion, like you were saying earlier. He was consumed with emotion. That was a different guy that was doing that rapping. So yeah, I agree with you too. Me Against the World might be the most honest version we get. Excuse me. So let's do a little switch up and finish up with, because we have news that 2 new inductees are coming into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that are representing the rap community, and they happen to be 2 that we've talked about on this show and 2 that we absolutely love. So 2 groups are going in. We're going to get to all of them, but 2 groups are going in, and here's what we're looking at: Salt-N-Pepa and OutKast.
Shout out S&P and Cinderella. Shout out. Long overdue, in my opinion. Long overdue. Glad you're getting your flowers now.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and same to OutKast, man. It is nobody who is a fan of Southern rap. I'm sure there are some rap fans outside of the South who are all about this, but I do not care. We do not care when it comes to what y'all think about OutKast. Us in the South.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you. I'm here to tell you.
That's all I'm saying to you. We do not care what y'all think about OutKast. But it's nice to see them go in. But I wanted to talk about this list a little bit too when you brought this up to me, because I think this is it's kind of a cool list to be real with you. I looked at everybody on it. Now, you could argue all day names that should be on there, names that shouldn't be on there, who should have been first, who should have been whatever. You can argue all day. I'm not interested in that, because that's not really a fruitful argument anyway, because we don't have any control over any of this. If I just had to look, like, that's not a bad collection of people from the rap community to put into the Hall of Fame, into the rock and roll.
There's no holes there. There's no flaws in there, because longevity and impact, like, two of the rules is have to be, I think, 20 or 25 years from your initial project.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that they lean on heavy is impact in the genre. Now that I've said that, I've told you 20 to 25 years since your initial project, and impact of the genre. Now go back and look at that list and tell me where they got it from.
Yeah, I thought about that earlier. Like, I mean, of course there are other names I'd like to see on here, but if this is just the first group that you came up with, like, here's why I say I'm not mad at this list at all, because I see the logic. I see the logic in this list. With all these other lists that we talk about, that we bring up on our shows, the top 25s, the greatest rappers ever, all of those lists, most of the time I can't see the logic in why they pick what they pick. In this, I can see exactly the logic behind why they pick what they pick.
Yeah.
Everybody on here was a 20+ year game changer. I mean, outside of, well, I guess one. And outside of that one name. All right. I told you I was going to ask you this question, and I'm going to ask you this question about that one rapper who did not have 20 years because he wasn't afforded the chance to live 20 years into the rap game. Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls is on here, and I've already said I don't have a problem with anybody on this list. And before I ask this question, I want all the people who are going to get mad, remember, I am asking BA a specific question. So if you get mad at me for asking the question. Not independent of this list. I'm not asking should he be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because I don't disagree with anybody who's on here. Is Biggie Smalls a little bit overrated?
It's hard to say. And here's why it's hard to say. He died. Now, take it for what you want. Take it how you want it, for the reasoning behind it. We know he was taken from us. He was unalived before his time. We understand that. But what it didn't give us a chance to ever know is if his career would have actually had a downside. So I feel like he gets a ton of credit because he is matched with others who, and we've given him the benefit of the longevity of their careers without him ever having the same time in, same skin in the game, so to speak. I believe Biggs, oh man, Golly, I can't believe. I don't think I've ever said this out loud. I don't believe Big is overrated, but I believe his most impactful moment in hip hop was his death. You know, Cannabis had a bar that said that was basically to LL Cool J that the greatest rapper of all time died on March 9th. I personally don't believe he was the greatest rapper of all time for New York or period. But I believe Biggie was the greatest of rappers, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. He was a rapper's rapper, right? He busted rhyme. Like there's just a couple guys that are rappers. They are seamless. It doesn't matter who they deal with. Their style just seems to work with whomever, right? I believe he was lyrical enough, but his voice actually was limiting to what he could do lyrically. So he had a lot of 4-bar setups, right? He did a lot of double in, double out, which is good when you're struggling from air. No disrespect, but he was heavy and he was nasally, right? So when you do that, you know, being able to get in and out of bars is hard to do. But then you look at a song like Notorious Thugs where he's able to ride a beat to a cadence and at a speed that we had never seen before, right? So do I think I wouldn't say overrated. I would say for New York at times he's over romanticized.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels like not overrated. It just feels like an athlete who comes in who's so good, and then just let's say they blow their knee out after 2 seasons, but they have 2 of the most amazing seasons we've seen somebody come into league and have. And then they blow out their knee and they can't play anymore. It feels like we just assumed that everything after that was going to continue to be the same thing. And I mean, maybe that's a safe assumption. I'm not making, I asked the question because I think it's just something fun to talk about and interesting to talk about because I don't have an answer. I don't know what I would say. I don't think I say he's overrated. I do think that, I guess my main question comes from like the interview that you sent me, and I can't remember who it was from, but they were asking if Andre 3K could be the GOAT or could be better than Biggie. And the particular person answering it said no because Andre was in a group. But if Andre was in a group, but Biggie had two albums, so like 2 albums and being the GOAT feels like that's not fair to a lot of other people who had albums that were just as good and I mean through no fault of Biggie's, but right. They were still allowed, you know, to continue making music. Like I guess it's whether or not you penalize other rappers for his short career or you penalize him for what happened to him. Like it's not his fault what happened to him either.
So this is my question. And I'll just use these 2 albums. When you talk about the greatest of all time and the short sample size that Biggie gave us, I don't care if it's Life After Death or Ready to Die. I'll let anybody pick. My question is, if you only get to pick one of them, right? Is either one of them better than Illmatic? Is either one of them better than Reasonable Doubt?
That is a good question. That's an episode question there, man.
And again, it's not something, I mean, in the comments, feel free, whatever. Yeah. But that's, when I look at it, that's how I look at it. Now, had he given me 5 albums, 6 albums, right? Now I can start chopping it up, kind of like we did on the last episode, when Biggie only had 2 albums, and so we rated catalog against Big and Pac. We didn't put Pac's 8 albums or 9 albums against Big's 2 albums. That's stupid. Right? So we did what you're supposed to do, and we went through Pac's catalog and compared 2 projects to 2 projects, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how we weighed it out. And so that's how I say, that's kind of how I look at it anyway, is when we start arguing those things, if that's what you're saying to me, then the proof has to be in something.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, back to the list. Is there anything else you noticed about when you saw I think what is it, 14 now?
Yeah, I think OutKast, Salt-N-Pepa make it 14.
15.
I think it's 13 or 14.
It's 15 now, yeah.
Yeah, because it was 13 before the 2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing is, and I'm gonna say this as a nitpick as a hip hop fan, but to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Board of Trustees, I get it, right? But Kool Herc should have been the second person on this list.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I say second, right, is because you had to have a reason. You had to figure out how to put hip hop in, right? So that would have been whatever you did with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. Whatever you came up with to say, okay, we're going to start including this genre in this thing, right? Herc couldn't have been the first. So you had to have a first. Mm-hmm. So once you created that, then to me, you immediately go back to Herc as the second one. Right? My only problem with Herc being in there is Bambaataa is not. Right? But again, Herc didn't go in there until 2023. So Bambaataa may be shortly, could be in the next few years or whatever. But
yeah, and I mean, OutKast and Salt-N-Pepa weren't exactly in the same class either.
No, and so yeah, I mean, I know it's not automatic, and I'm glad it isn't, right? And I've looked at their criteria, and I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at how they decide who gets in, because it makes me appreciate everybody on the list even more.
Because it's sustained greatness. It's not like me and you argue so much with these younger generations right now in hip hop, because they want to crown their generation's rappers now. They want to goat their rappers eight years into your career, and we're like, no, man, goats don't do 4 albums, or goats aren't 8-year guys. Goats are around for a long time. They don't go away. Like, and that's so I really appreciate that criteria, that you have to be in it for so long and you have to be impactful. And there are others that I'd like to see, but I do want to say, I guess to wrap up my thoughts on it, for OutKast getting in, man, we have said this every time. OutKast has 5 classic albums. Every album they did was classic. Just bang, 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 bang. 5 in a row. Absolute classics. And they finished with the highest selling, at least in record sales, highest selling album of all time. They revamped Atlanta and Southern rap. They helped get Southern rap to a national audience when the North didn't really care to hear us, the Midwest wasn't really that interested. They helped get it all out there. So I absolutely love their albums and everything. I'm absolutely as happy as I can be that OutKast gets to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'll say the exact same thing about Salt-N-Pepa, because what I just said about OutKast albums, that applies to Salt-N-Pepa's songs. Because Salt-N-Pepa had one song after another that is just still, if it comes on today, anybody over the age of 30 loses their mind. And it's track after track that they had like that. ghostwriters, whatever, I don't care. Say whatever you want to say about that. I don't care. They owned an era. Like their sound was so hip hop. And if I mean, to me, it felt like if you could just turn the 80s whole hip hop culture into a sound, that would be one of the ones that I would think that people would pick would to represent that 80s sound.
And to me, Salt-N-Pepa was not just obvious, right? To me, Salt-N-Pepa, out of the list, Salt-N-Pepa for this list was like E40 to me on the West Coast Mount Rushmore. Salt-N-Pepa, for all intent and purpose, was the female version of Run DMC across the board, right? They're two rappers, you know, Salt-N-Pepa, highly touted, Run DMC, highly touted lyricists, right? But the DJs were just as much a pivotal part of the group and the group's success as individuals. Jam Master Jay, Spinderella. Spinderella's still on right now, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Spinderella, I believe, still has a show. I don't know if it's a podcast or a stream show, but she's still spinning now, right? Spin is major in hip hop. And if you don't know who Spinderella is, Jazz Joyce and a couple really legendary female spinners, y'all gotta start getting into this, man. You gotta start understanding that there was female hip hop before Glorilla and Lotto and Sexy Red, but y'all also gotta understand there were female pioneers before Foxy Brown and Kim, right? Like Latifah, they didn't just walk in here and open doors. They kicked in doors, true, right? But, you know, the Roxanne Shantays, the Funky Fresh plus the One, right? Shy Rock, Salt-N-Pepa. These women in the mid to late 80s, right, were groundbreaking because there was not a female rap genre yet. Everything they did was compared. Salt-N-Pepa had their own tours where they were the headliners and 4 guests were male acts below them.
And which was something that people don't understand. Like when you are in, like, for females to be in an all male industry, making it to the top is not just being better than all the other females.
Nah.
It's being just as good as the males too. And
when you talk about
hip hop,
let's talk about sex.
Well, hip hop didn't have a great view of female MCs for a long time. Like they pushed them into 1 or 2 lanes. But Salt-N-Pepa came out. They had the sex appeal. They had the dances, the videos. Like they came out and put themselves front and center, and we were all like, yeah, I'm okay with this. This is.
They didn't get to just sit still and look sexy. That wasn't it. Right? That wasn't it. You didn't get to just, like, Salt-N-Pepa, unlike where music has gone now, and I won't pigeonhole it and say females because men do it too, right? Where music is gone now.
Salt-N-Pepa didn't need an OnlyFans account.
But when they put them biker suits on, they could have had one, but they didn't need one, right? And I'm glad you brought that up. They didn't get to just be sexy. That wasn't enough. Salt-N-Pepa and Spinderella were entertainment. Songs like Let's Talk About Sex was a cultural, iconic track that in a femme fatale, in an explosion of hip hop, where we talking about parties and B's and H's and drugs and they tackled HIV in the black community. They tackled the word, right? They tackled the big elephant in the room, the big A, right? And they did that and not just made it a hit. For 10 years, they were actually on other commercials for Planned Parenthood. Like there was just so many things with that. You now let's somebody make a song saying let's talk about sex and it not being details about sexual encounters.
Yeah, it not sound like pornographic.
Right. This is what I'm talking about. Like shoot. They could have used any other word in the world. But make me want to shoot because you had to think about why they chose that word. What that meant, the acronym behind it. Right?
What a man.
Yeah, what a man. Like, when is the last time we praised good brothers or good sisters for that matter, right? When's the last time we did songs that were praising someone for being good, just period, right? But let's take it further, right? One of their highest grossing songs to date, or top 3 was still Push It, right? Push It came out in an era where you had to deal with Hammer. You had to go against Hammer, bro. And like people don't understand, that's a battle you didn't really want to win. You might could out-rap Hammer, but when it came time to selling out concerts and arenas, Hammer was never somebody you wanted to have to try to go seat for seat with.
Yeah, you didn't want to go date for date on your tour with Hammer.
You did not want to mix dates with Hammer, and y'all was in the same venues within a week or two. Cause your numbers better been right, or your date gonna get skipped. Your numbers better be right. So shout out Salt-N-Pepa. I mean, we talk a lot about OutKast, so I'll let you speak to Cass. But this is the thing I will say about OutKast that I wish grown men would say about Michael Jordan. Andre 3000 is Andre 3000. No matter what, right? As in Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan no matter what. But you need a big boy to make an OutKast. It's like Jordan needed a Pippen, right? You need somebody else that when you look at, they bring something out of you that's just different. And Big Boy, without a shadow of a doubt, was not along for the ride. He contributed majorly. I still say that Southern Playalistic was a Big Boy project that Andre was on. Just like I say ATLians was an Andre project that Big Boy was on.
Yeah.
Right? And I kind of feel like that's the way they did all their projects, is that one of the two of them took a lead for the style and they developed from there.
Yeah, no, man, I will wrap up the whole OutKast thing just by saying what I said. Like 5 for 5 classic albums. We talked about this, and we'll talk about this later on in the show, but I don't know anybody who's got 5 classic albums in their catalog, and I damn sure don't know who had 5 in a row.
Nobody had 5 in a row. You can argue somebody had 5.
Yeah. Nobody's got 5 in a row. Nobody has 5 classic albums in a row like OutKast. Nobody sold the way that they sold on that last album. Like, that's how much they meant to people, was knowing that their last album, it sold that well. And look, I've already said what they did for Atlanta. I've already said what they did for Southern hip hop. I'm already on record saying that I think Dre is one of the best rappers ever. And I think Big Boy is probably the best Scottie Pippen that Dre could have had. And that is not disrespecting Big Boy at all, because Scottie Pippen was an absolute baller.
6 rings.
Exactly. So that is what I'll say. Congratulations to OutKast. Congratulations to Salt-N-Pepa. Both of those are well deserved. And I love seeing them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That is it for us tonight in episode 89 of Grown Man Bars. I'm your man Chad. With me as always, my brother from another mother, Big Absolute. We will catch y'all next time. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe. See y'all in the comments.
Hit the like.